Good afternoon, folks, and thank you for inviting me here to speak today. Like all of you, MIP is a time to see old friends, make new ones, and serves as a litmus for the state of the industry and for the stamina of all of our livers. What I want to discuss today is the power of brand on television. And to kick it off, I'd like to quote a friend and a colleague. At NAPI this past January, Hernan Lopez, president of Fox International Channels, made a comment that truly resonated with me. He said, "If content is king, the brand is the castle." Meaning if kings come and go, but the castle is the one constant. Now, I'm fortunate enough to work for one of the most global brands in the world today, National Geographic, a castle 127 years in the making. The power of the yellow border has always inspired me, and not something I take lightly. Like most in this room, I was raised in the shadows of towering stacks of faded yellow magazines. And it's those branded memories that others and myself recognize the weight of legacy with every decision we make at the channel. And we take to heart, if we're going to succeed in the modern media landscape, we need to actualize the power of our brand. The question is how? Look at the way we all watch television or absorb content nowadays. It's no secret that habits have changed dramatically over the past few years. In a world where the market is being disrupted every day by technological innovation, digital distribution, brand plays a more significant role than ever before. Every day we're experiencing a hurricane of digital content crashing into our lives and homes. 50% of 18 to 32-year-olds are browsing the web for other content while watching television. Even in my own household, I may fight for the remote to watch the premiere of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or stream episodes of the original The Returned, or watch the latest news from Russia TV on my iPhone. Now, do I speak Russian? No. The point is, now I have the ability to watch that programming, and that's enough to grab my attention, because like everyone in this room, I love options for content. And it's the same inherent drive to consume more and more content across time and space. When we're living in a world where we're not only fighting against what's premiering in a slot on the same evening, but all media across platforms and time, brand is the most valuable asset we have to attract and hold on to our viewers. Again, 50% double viewing while on the couch. That is a sobering statistic. Creating brand addiction and lifestyle is a necessity. We're all striving for the same thing, and thankfully, the power of National Geographic and the future of our brand lives in our reach and diversity. Beyond reaching 171 countries as a television network, National Geographic Channel has over 50 million Facebook fans globally, making it the largest network on the social media site and one of the top 50 most followed pages worldwide. Furthermore, National Geographic itself has over 15 million followers on Instagram. So what's the key to tapping into that power of brand on television today, and especially in the nonfiction market? We don't have a perfect formula, but it's our job as content creators and commissioners to figure out how we evolve and succeed in the modern media landscape while at the same time honoring our brands and our castles. For me, here are 5 pillars to our brand foundation. Stay bold, be resilient, maintain authenticity, make some noise, and disrupt. So what does it mean to be bold in nonfiction television? The best example I have is let's travel back to 1965, the year the color television was coming into its own, but the year the National Geographic Society chose to launch its first network television show. Not only did the Society take cameras up Everest during a 1963 expedition with climbers packing film inside their jackets on the way down as they discarded heavy camera equipment, they also went after Hollywood talent to narrate. Things just don't change. These were the bold moves that, for the time, changed the course of nonfiction television forever. You see, the Society had the vision that adventure, science, and exploration could make for compelling and popular primetime television. And on September 10th, 1965, the Society's first ever television special aired on CBS, Let's watch.
This is Everest, summit of the world. A world above the world. High, savage, frozen. The mountain is huge, and man is small. But man is here. Man the seeker, the challenger. These will be the first Americans to climb the greatest of mountains.
Watching that stuff, and especially listening to Orson, who narrated the first four. And you'll notice they didn't sacrifice brand. The society went their own way, and they found a way to use television to expand their reach. And this kick-started over 50 years of National Geographic television programming, which brings me to my next point, resilience. Now, by resilience, I don't mean just the ability to tough it out through the best and worst of times, but a belief that a brand is capable of evolving in order to stay relevant. Let's take the National Geographic anthem, for instance, the sonic branding that has evoked emotions within the core of our viewers throughout time. And you've just heard the Bernstein classic from the 60s, but I gotta show you the 80s. Let's take a listen to the 80s anthem. For some reason in the 80s. Now, as I was preparing for this event, we dug into the archives and found a rendition for almost every decade. And this anthem is the sonic branding of National Geographic and has stood the test of time. And it quickly became the theme song to National Geographic's award-winning and critically acclaimed documentary series, Explorer, the longest-running documentary series in cable television history with more than 2,000 films and over 60 Emmys over its original 25-year run. Now, that series is a testament to the resiliency of not only just a programming commitment, but how over a quarter of a century, one series can stay in the conversation. But with respect to the power brand, it also demonstrates that the audience will repay you for staying true to your core. And this fall, Explorer will return.
I thought I saw something strange.
Human bones.
This is absolutely the front line.
We're now heading even deeper in, further than any journalists have been permitted.
You can die very easily down there.
Into the jungle.
Thank you. Well, and when Explorer relaunches, you can expect to hear a rendition of the anthem that's fresh and new, even though I would love to throw the 80s one back on. But now the great thing about National Geographic is that we have celebrated being authentic for over 127 years. And let's be clear, Authentic does not mean boring, quite the opposite. Authentic for us means that our brand must maintain a point of view, have authorship. Again, going our own way. We can't be swept away with trends or fear of failure or being trapped by our own expectations. A great example that I think represents authenticity for us is the series we air in the U.S. called Life Below Zero. Now, on the surface, another show about Alaska is probably the last thing anyone thinks we need. But we found a way to approach it with a point of view that was entertaining, compelling, and authentic to our brand. Life Below Zero.
Nighttime is back. Northern lights are back. It's just a quick slide now into the fun that we call winter.
Winters are brutal up here. Once you get cold, your body shuts down. If you're by yourself, it's all over. It's hard when you're cold and you're shaking. If it was easy, it really wouldn't be fun.
This is going to be one hell of a bad winter. Am I prepared for that? I don't know.
Thank you. Now, Life Below Zero has actually been the channel's second highest rated series for the last couple of years, confirming that you can still make some noise while maintaining authenticity. And as we all know too well, the television market has never been more crowded. And breaking through the clutter has never been a greater challenge, but I contend that you can break through the clutter while staying true to your brand. And National Geographic has been experimenting with scripted. And in fact, our third scripted film, Killing Jesus, just premiered with stellar ratings and critical praise. I want to show you just a short trailer of Killing Jesus.
I told you work miracles. A miracle could save you.
A child born in your kingdom.
A Messiah.
You preach weakness.
No, strength.
Down with the moderators!
End this threat to order. End it.
Betrayed, humiliated, soon agony.
Is this the God you bragged of?
All three of our killing films, Killing Lincoln, Killing Kennedy, and now Killing Jesus, were great at creating lots of noise and buzz. And we translated this buzz into second screen experiences in an effort to engineer more opportunities for our audience to stay connected to our brand while surfing, again, outside traditional linear television. Since its launch, the Killing Jesus microsite has generated over 1 million impressions, with the average visitor spending approximately 30 minutes on the site. 30 minutes. Propelling it as the network's best performing digital show extension to date. And these brand extensions are becoming more important every day in a disruptive marketplace. When there's nothing but noise, too many options can overload the brain, and complexity brings on viewer paralysis. The power of brand is to bring our viewers back home when they are lost. Now, being disruptive is quite the buzzword that you hear consistently and is probably overused. That and leaning in, another favorite. But what does it really mean to be disruptive? It goes beyond disrupting a marketplace with an idea. You sometimes need to disrupt yourself, your team, and most importantly, your brand. Let go of the fear of being trapped by your own expectations. A powerful brand, again, is resilient and capable of evolving. But the real question is, how can you translate such disruption into programming decisions? And I believe our first step towards doing just that is National Geographic Channel's first comedy. Now, I know it may sound like mixing oil and water, but I refuse to believe that our sophisticated and complex audience, which has a high index ratio with FX and FXX, is not ready for another genre to tackle the topics they love. And in this instance, it's history. And the true power of our brand is that the yellow border is the lens through which we see the world. And sometimes that world needs just a little humor. And without further delay, I'd like to share the latest presentation tape for the event series, History of the World for Now.
1, 2, 3. Is this thing on?
Yep, ready when you are. Cueing music.
Okay.
Throughout time, man has changed history with each new discovery.
No, wait. Let me do a pickup here.
Now, National Geographic presents the history of the world for now. From the minds that brought you King of the Hill, Blades of Glory, and Silicon Valley comes history told by the people that were there. Cutting-edge CGI, high-end reenactments, cartoons,
No.
lifelike animation.
I'm here for your gold. Afraid we don't have any gold, old man. This is a leper boat.
All this to tell the history of the world for now.
We'll see. And it goes without saying, but the power of brand truly lies in its ability to inspire and generate curiosity, creativity, and awe. So thank you again. Now it's time to hand over the microphone to Stewart for a little Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, we haven't got long, so I'm going to go quick.
No problem.
You ready? It's interesting, watching your presentation, Tim, you obviously really believe in, you've got tremendous respect for the brand, but it's interesting to see when we're looking at kind of classic factual programming through to kind of the observational docs, through to scripted and now comedy, that what the brand is a much bigger thing than ever before. Is that part of your mission to broaden the appeal and make it a bigger and wider proposition?
Definitely. I think, again, as I was saying, the yellow border, to me, is the lens we look at the world. And clearly that world is very big. And for us at Nat Geo, again, we're always striving to not only program to our core, but to expand our reach. So for instance, History of the World is an attempt as well to kind of open up another avenue of programming, to touch another fan base, another audience base that we can then translate to other nights of the programming and stick around. It's also an attempt for us to lower the median age at times, right? At times with a legacy brand, one of our biggest hurdles is that fact that sometimes the perception is that we're an older brand. So every day we're trying to combat that and bring our brand more modern and current. For instance, Life Below Zero premiered on Thursday night. Median age was 60 years old, which is actually even higher for Life Below Zero. So we're looking at what happened on Thursday night. Killing Jesus was 64 years old, and you may expect that with the traditional programming along that ilk, but at the same time, our mission is to continue to lower our median age and bring in a whole new fan base, new audience base for the future.
And as well as skewing younger, is it an attempt to gender balance the channel a little bit more, because historically it's been male skewed, right?
It has, and some more so than others, but Brain Games is a strong example of something that is well balanced, right? And also skews roughly in the high 30s, 40s, low 40s at times. So again, trying to go back and to hit we'll always be slightly more male skewing, but we definitely don't want to be in the space of 70-30 male skewing, 75-25.
Brain Games was a big success for you, and as is often the case, when something worked really well, we see other programs in a similar category emerge. Is your reading of that kind of smart entertainment category that it's reaching the end of the cycle, or perhaps that there are still ways to, reinvent and reimagine, that kind of subgenre?
100%. I think Brain Games was lightning in the bottle, clearly for us. And I think we've been trying to figure out and do it again and again. At times we've missed, and at times we have found success. But at the end of the day, I think the future of that strand of programming lies in the fact that we need to evolve it, broaden it, and every day continue to figure out exactly what it is that makes Brain Games fantastic and attractive to our audience, and how do we implement that in a new strand as well.
And imitation being the sincerest form of flattery, it's becoming your competitors have seen what it's done, and it's become a more crowded space, that, edutainment, smartertainment, however you want to call it.
It is, but the nice thing is that beyond just what happens in the States, that strand of programming has really been successful for us globally as a family. And that clearly is a priority to us, and a very huge importance for Hamish, Makira, and I to find more of that. So at the end of the day, we're continuing to look as, again, how we evolve that. And again, I'm very happy that folks are trying to imitate it. We just need to figure out where it goes from here.
And we saw Killing Jesus, which I think did 3.7 or more million. So that was a great number for you guys. So scripted is obviously working. What can we expect moving forward in terms of drama? Is it around 1 or 2 tentpoles a year, or how do you see that piece evolving?
Well, we'll always maintain our factual roots. We're always going to stay a factual network. But for us, with our success and the way the market's changing as well, I think we're looking to delve into a couple projects a year. So that may be mini events, movies in general, and also opening up to potential series. So at the end of the day, right now, we're still trying to figure out that strategy, but by all means, we will continue with that strand.
There could come a time when there are regular length returning series on National Geographic.
Could potentially be.
And as you go down that route, do you pilot? What's the actual process, or do you do straight to series orders? What are the mechanics?
I think at the end of the day, we want to find ourselves in a specific groove where, yes, potential pilots can work, and we should start testing in that respect. But since we're so new to the scripted phase, we've yet to really pilot anything. We've kind of jumped feet first into the deep end a lot on projects, just also to kickstart. Let's get it going. That when you start to pilot programming in general, clearly the cycle and production cycle is extended, and programming won't hit the air for another 2 years, and I'm way too impatient for that.
And with the drama, do you anticipate everything having that kind of historical flavour and a historical setting? Does that kind of speak to the brand values you were outlining?
I think at the end of the day, we love to have our drama rooted in factual history and authenticity for sure, science fact. But at the end of the day, I think the yellow border can take us into many other places.
Such as comedy. That's kind of a surprise move. Is that you dipping your toe in the water and seeing how things work out, or do you anticipate comedy becoming part of the grid?
It's a big experiment. It's a swing. At the end of the day, again, I hope that it works clearly, and it can open up another avenue of programming for us. Because if we find success and we find an audience that has appetite and will tune into National Geographic for programming of that ilk, it just opens up a whole nother realm of potential for us.
Just a last one on drama. Let me play devil's advocate, Tim. There are more and more US cable channels commissioning drama. There are lots already, some of your stablemate channels who've got a real pedigree of doing it. In a sense, don't people come to Nat Geo because they've made an active decision not to watch a drama channel and they want something else?
I think it depends on the drama. I think with Killing Lincoln and Killing Kennedy and Killing Jesus, we've proven that the audience does want to come to us at times for scripted if we serve up the correct scripted and that feels on brand. By all means, I think it really just depends on where we want to take scripted and what spaces, and also in terms of history, what stories we were going to tell.
And in terms of kind of the classic high-end factual pieces that you're so well known for, do they still cut through in the same way? Is there still the same demand, and will you be commissioning them in the same volume, do you anticipate?
It's interesting. I think we're seeing a resurgence of big blue chip, right? And it's driven by viewers, and it's also driven by the industry. And I think there is more of an appetite now because the market is so busy and so noisy that premium content is really what cuts through the noise, right? Also in the press, also on the channel, what drives and attracts viewers, also online. So for us, I am continuously looking for what those big blue chip properties are for us next, especially in the doc space. And what's interesting, difficult with that is because the going clears and the jinxes, and they're not necessarily on the market in droves. And for us, acquisition sometimes also is like trying to fit a program into a square yellow border and retrofit it for our brand. So for us, our real intention is how do we get in on the ground floor with big blue chip docs so we can, again, build it from the ground up based on the DNA of our brand.
Do you sense that there's talk at the moment that people are really trying to reinvent blue chip with, obviously there's lots of technological advances, which is always the case, but also in terms of kind of editorial approaches, taking inspiration from other genres and such like. Is that something you're feeling?
100%. I think at the end of the day, the cinematic value and technology is driving such creative avenues and manners in which to tell old or traditional tales. And for instance, Life on Earth is a good example. Life on Earth has been remade multiple times from Planet Earth, and it just takes it up a notch every time we go back into that space, BBC in general. So for us, I think there's a whole new bag of tricks around the corner to figure out how to tell some of these again, even if it's natural history or science-based programming.
You talked about authenticity in the presentation, and some critics would maintain, particularly at kind of that MIPDoc kind of reality end of the scale, and I'm not specifically saying Nat Geo, but certain shows haven't had the requisite amount of authenticity. I mean, do you see that that's the case? Is that kind of MIPDoc big character type show running to the end of its cycle?
I don't know if it's running to the end of the, I think it's cyclical for sure. I think the brand and the pendulum is swinging back towards authenticity at a lot of networks. However, I think some networks will stay within the reality TV space as well within there because it does well and it is entertaining and has its place for many brands and many networks. Again, for us, our viewers, again, are repaying us when we stay authentic. If we seem to come across as inauthentic at times or too formatty, then we can tell and our audience does respond.
Tim, we're at MIP, so obviously there are a lot of producers in town. Excuse me. What's the deal for the producers you work with? Of course, people like as much of the budget covered as possible, but increasingly, and MIP being a great example, people want to retain some back end to be able to exploit internationally and elsewhere. Do you always want to fully fund and take all the rights off the table, or how do you play it?
It really depends on the project, but at the moment, yes, clearly the priority for us as a family is to globally commission properties. At the same time, we're leveraging a global network, a global family, and multiple platforms. So for us, it makes the most sense at times to fully commission, and clearly, like everyone, we want to take as many rights as possible. And even more so in a world where ancillary revenue streams are bolstering and growing and building every day. So for the producers in the room, I'd say who, as networks do, want to retain rights and figure out manners in which to. The truth is it really comes down to fiscal participation. The more money, the more rights can be left off the table.
And when we were speaking beforehand and I said, what do producers need to know that want to work with you guys? You were talking about producing with intention and perhaps kind of suggesting that nowadays people need to come more fully prepared than ever before. That the vision has to be, pretty much 100% in place.
100%, and having been a producer and been on both sides of the table for sure, I like and develop with our team and maintain a bar of preparation, as you said. And for me, it's also stylistic. So we've started building in places at the network more of a kind of requisite for style guides, cinematic looks. I want to know what the tone package will be. I want everyone to kind of come to the table and as a team, and with all respect, to start building things together. Because as you said, for me, producing with attention will get us to some place we want to be much quicker, with less problems for everybody, and at the end of the day, usually on budget.
We're out of time, but let me just squeeze one more in. Obviously you're based in the U.S., but you're here in Cannes giving the keynote presentation. How do you work with the international side of the business that's run out of London by Hamish McGura?
Hamish and I are on the phone almost every other day, so very closely. At the end, our priority together as a family is to find projects together and exploit those assets around the globe. Again, across all platforms, from the Fox family, from National Geographic side of the family. So we're very much on par with each other, where our heads are at with programming and also our needs.
Could come from you guys and then international gets involved or vice versa?
Correct, 100%.
Got it. We're running over, so we're going to have to wrap it there. But Tim, thank you for a great presentation and then taking some questions afterwards. So please join me in saying thank you to Tim Pastore.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.